Hey, good morning. Welcome to Leading Edge. Good to have you along. I'm Jerry Anderson. It was after Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin killed a black resident there, George Floyd, that we had protests around this country, including in Toledo. Some of those protests, as we know, turned violent. And in the wake of a particularly rough weekend in Toledo, the mayor formed a community police relations and reform committee, some 35 members strong. He was charged with examining relationships between the police department and the community, especially the community of color, and to make recommendations. Well, the committee has spoken. One of the three leaders of that committee is a strong community voice and advocate, a labor leader, and my guest here on Leading Edge. I welcome in David Fleetwood. Good to see you, Mr. Fleetwood. Thank you for your work. Your committee has wrapped its work up, it appears, for now, has issued several recommendations. We'll get to as many as we can. But did it do, David, at the end of the day, what you hoped it would do?
Once again, good morning, Jerry. Thanks for having me on. I believe the committee basically just scratched the surface. As we dug into the conversations with the community and then also with the police and the administration, we realized, as trying to do a deep dive, as Mayor Kapsakevich asked us to do, that this task was deeper than even we thought. As a matter of fact, at the end, I think I felt wholly inadequate. There's a lot of mistrust on the community side as far as police and administration, and it goes back hundreds of years. And so what we tried to do was get as much as we can, but we realized that this process is going to take, in order for this process to complete itself, it's going to take many years of work. It's going to take many years of fellowshipping.
Let's do some of the stuff you guys have recommended. Hey, we'll do it as quickly as possible. I mean, community relations training for police. I don't see how anybody opposes that, although some may have. But as I read about things, David Fleetwood, it seems the mayor says, hey, we've already checked that box. You know, we're doing bias training. Shoot, our training is even open to the public. Do you agree with him?
Well, I would have to agree with the fact that if he says he's done it, I would take him at his word. But what we are suggesting, and from the community's concerns and their things that they voiced, this bias training would have to be in depth. It would have to continue, because what happens, Jerry, is if you do something long enough, you know, it becomes a habit. It becomes muscle reflex.
Yep.
And so what we have is individuals that are 35, 40 years old, are grown, and they're used to doing things one way, and they don't understand how things are done in certain neighborhoods, you know. And what we found out is that everybody has biases, and that's what it's all about. Even I have biases. Everybody has biases. It comes from where you were born. It comes from how you were brought up. You know, even you see the big time athletes. You know, they got a mother and father. They're supposed to love them both the same, but when the camera hits them, they say, "Hi, Mom." Everybody has a bias, and the first step to recovery is admittance. And so these biases, you know, we don't even know they affect us until situations happen, and we go to our roots and our muscle reflexes.
Let's do a couple more.
You just can't have 6 weeks of bias training and
call it a day.
Solve the problem.
I got it. Expanded police athletically, I think, is a great idea. I know it'll take resources and personnel, but I love that. You called for reimagining the Block Watch program. I like Block Watch, but what's the reimagining? How so?
Well, basically, you know, I remember the day, and I know you remember the day, when we used to walk down the street as kids, and everybody's grandmother and parent would be on the porch, you know, and we had a community relations. And what's happening now is we see this violence and stuff occurring. It's because we've lost those ways. And so we need to, and that's going to take a conversation for community to get back together and have a block watch and watch each other's backs. And, you know, and not so much as snitching on people, but just watching each other's backs. And if we as a community can get together and watch for each other, we think that'll solve a lot of the problems.
Your committee is calling for assigning a neighborhood beat system. I thought we were already doing something. I thought the chief wanted his officers out of their squad cars and working the neighborhoods. But regardless, you had police on the committee. Do they agree with you guys calling for this neighborhood beat system?
They somewhat agree with it, but they don't think that with the limited number of officers that they have the ability to do that, because we talked about the good old days where the officers walked up and down the street, and besides their presence being there, they became familiar and became like family to the residents there. So now when I catch little Johnny doing something wrong, I call him by name. He knows me and I know him. So there'll be a difference to the way that he responds to me and the way that I respond to him.
This is David Fleetwood. He co-chaired the 35-member committee, the Community Police Relations and Reform Committee, talking about some things that this committee has kicked out as recommendations. There's some things they didn't get to, and we're going to continue that discussion when Leading Edge returns right after this.